For 6 months, Nia Thompson brought breakfast to an old man every single morning. A peanut butter sandwich, one banana, hot coffee in a small thermos, every day at exactly 6:15 a.m. No matter how tired she was, no matter how cold it got, no matter how heavy life felt. The bus stop was old and cracked, tucked beside a quiet road where no one ever stopped for long. Cars passed without slowing. People walked by without looking. That was where George Fletcher slept, on a wooden bench with one broken leg, wrapped in a faded army jacket that smelled of rain, dust, and time. Nia was only 22 years old, black, working 2 jobs, trying to survive in a city that never slowed down and never waited for anyone. She worked nights at a hospital as a nursing aide, long hours, heavy work. She cleaned rooms, lifted patients, and held hands when families were not around. During the day, she picked up shifts at a small grocery store, standing for hours behind a register with aching feet and tired eyes. Sleep came in short pieces. Bills came in full stacks. Sometimes she ate dinner out of a vending machine. Sometimes she skipped meals so rent could be paid on time. Life was not kind, but it had made her strong. George was 68, white, homeless, and always talking about the military. He talked about helicopters landing in clouds of dust, about long nights under open skies, about soldiers calling his name in moments of fear. He spoke with detail, with emotion, with pride. But people laughed at him. Some ignored him. Others told him to stop lying and be quiet. Nia never did. The first day she noticed him, she had only planned to walk past. She was late. Her phone buzzed with reminders. Her mind was full of worries, but she saw the way his hands shook as he tried to warm them on an empty coffee cup. She stopped. She turned around. "Do you want this?" she asked, holding out her coffee. George looked surprised, then embarrassed. His eyes dropped to the ground. "Only if you don't need it," he said softly. She smiled. "I can get another." That moment stayed with her all day. The next morning, she brought a sandwich. The morning after that, she brought a banana. By the end of the week, she brought a full breakfast. By the end of the month, it became routine. George never asked for money, never begged, never complained. He accepted the food with quiet respect, as if it was something sacred. He always waited until she finished her shift before eating, as if the food meant more once she was there. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they sat in silence. Sometimes George told stories. Sometimes he stayed quiet. Sometimes he just watched the street as the sun rose. Every morning before she left, he said the same thing. "Thank you for seeing me." Nia never realized how rare that was. One morning, George talked about a night jump. His voice was calm at first, then slow, then unsteady. He described carrying a wounded soldier through fire, feeling the heat on his face, the weight in his arms. His voice cracked halfway through. "You ever tell anyone this?" Nia asked gently. He shook his head. "No one listens." "I do," she said. George smiled, and for a moment, he looked younger, stronger, like the man he once was. Then one morning, George wasn't there. The bench was empty. Nia checked her watch. 6:15 a.m. She waited. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The street stayed quiet. Her coffee grew cold in her hands. She left the breakfast on the bench and went to work with a strange weight in her chest. All day, her thoughts drifted back to the bus stop. That night, she barely slept. The next morning, still nothing. The breakfast sat untouched. By the third morning, fear settled deep inside her. She asked nearby shop owners. She asked people who waited at the bus stop. No one knew his name. No one knew where. He went. That night, after a double shift, Nia barely slept again. At 5:42 a.m., loud knocks echoed through her apartment. Sharp, firm, controlled. Nia opened the door wearing her hospital uniform. Her eyes were heavy. Her hair was tied back without care. 3 military officers stood outside. Dress uniforms, polished shoes, medals shining in the early light. A colonel stood at attention. "Miss Thompson," he said calmly, "we're here about George Fletcher." Her heart dropped. "George, the old man from the bus stop?" she asked. "Did something happen to him?" The colonel nodded slowly. "Yes," he said. "He passed away last night." The words hit her harder than she expected. Nia covered her mouth. Tears rushed before she could stop them. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "He spoke about you," the colonel continued. "You were mentioned in his final request." She looked confused, almost afraid to understand. The colonel handed her a folded letter. "He wanted you to have this." Her hands trembled as she opened it. "If anyone comes for me, please thank the girl from the bus stop. She fed me when I was invisible. She listened when no one else cared. She reminded me why I served." Tears fell onto the paper. The colonel spoke again. "George Fletcher was a decorated veteran," he said. "He saved 12 soldiers during active duty. His actions were recorded. His service was real." Nia froze. "No one believed him," she whispered. "He didn't need belief," the colonel replied. "He needed dignity." They invited her to the funeral. Full military honors. The day was quiet, respectful, heavy with meaning. Flags moved gently in the wind. Boots struck the ground in perfect rhythm. A trumpet played softly. In the distance, a folded flag was placed into her hands. "You earned this," the colonel said. Nia shook her head slowly. "I just brought breakfast." The colonel looked at her and smiled softly. "No," he said. "You brought humanity." Weeks later, Nia still walks past that bus stop. Sometimes she stops. Sometimes she leaves coffee. Sometimes she just stands there for a moment. Because kindness does not need witnesses. And sometimes the smallest act becomes the greatest honor.